My name is Noah. I was 5 years old when my parents died in a fire, and my life changed forever. That night, I lost everything. Not just a home, but the love, the warmth, the arms that held me close after the funeral. I was sent to live with my uncle, who didn't want me, but said he had no choice. He had 3 sons already, and I was just an extra mouth to feed, an extra shadow in the house. They gave me the attic, a cold, dark space with no window, no heater, just an old thin mattress. The stairs creaked every night. The wind howled through the cracks, and I cried myself to sleep. His sons had warm beds, toys, jackets, even dessert, while I had silence, dust, and hand-me-downs. They called me names, pushed my plate away, and said I wasn't one of them. Not really family. I tried to help around the house, hoping they would like me, but they laughed when I cleaned the floor. They mocked my clothes, hit my shoes, and locked the door once when I came home late from school. No one asked if I was hungry. No one checked if I had homework. They just wanted me out of the way. But I stayed quiet. I stayed small. I kept my books close and my hopes even closer inside my chest. Every night I read whatever I could find, old newspapers, torn books, and science magazines from the trash. I didn't have toys, but I had curiosity, and I imagined myself in hospitals, helping people feel better. At school, I sat in the front, raised my hand, answered every question, and smiled when teachers noticed me. The other kids wore new shoes and had lunch boxes. I just had bread and paper, but I never complained once. One winter, I got sick and stayed in bed alone for 3 days. No one brought me soup or asked how I was, but I healed myself slowly, wrapped in old blankets, whispering stories my mom used to tell me long ago. I remembered her voice, her laugh, the way she called me brave, even when we had nothing but dreams. That memory became my light, my quiet strength, my reason to keep going when no one else believed in me. At 12, I won my first science fair with a small project about the human heart made from cardboard. No one from my family came to see it, but my teacher cried and said, "You're going to change the world." I held on to her words like gold because praise was rare and belief even rarer in the house I lived in. The cousins rolled their eyes, but I kept building, kept learning, and started dreaming even bigger. When I turned 14, I started working weekends at a library just to be near books and quiet. I read about medicine, anatomy, diseases, and how people healed, how doctors gave hope to others. The librarian, Mrs. Clark, noticed me and started saving old medical books for me in a small box. I studied them late at night with a flashlight under the blanket, heart beating fast with every page. Every morning, I woke up early, folded my blanket tight, cleaned the room, and walked to school. I carried my books in a plastic bag, kept my head down, and smiled at people who passed me. Sometimes it rained and I got wet, but I never missed class, not even when I had a fever. I sat in the front row, took notes quickly, and asked questions even when others laughed at me. My cousin started skipping school, staying out late, and getting into fights near the corner. They came home angry and loud, blaming the world for everything, calling me names with hate. My uncle ignored their troubles, said boys will be boys, and punished me when things went wrong. He never praised my grades, never asked what I dreamed of, just told me to wash more dishes. But I didn't stop trying. I studied all night, even when I was tired, even when I felt alone. Mrs. Clark gave me more books, helped me practice speaking, and told me stories about real doctors. She said I had a rare gift, not just brains, but heart, and that I should protect it from bitterness. Her words gave me strength, made me believe that maybe my life could become something beautiful. In high school, I won awards, wrote papers, joined science clubs, and got medals no one noticed. The walls of my attic were covered with certificates, but downstairs they never mentioned my name. I applied for a summer program at a medical center, and after an interview, I got accepted. It was my first time in a real hospital, seeing patients, watching doctors, learning from them. I cleaned the floors first, brought coffee for nurses, and helped with small things without complaining. The head doctor watched me quietly, then gave me books, asked me questions, and taught me about life. He said medicine is not just about knowledge. It's about care, patience, and understanding pain. I wrote his words in my notebook, kept them close to my heart, and read them every single night. When I turned 17, I was offered a scholarship to a top university, full tuition and support. I remember holding the letter in my hand, walking into the kitchen and showing it to my uncle. He said nothing for a while, then said doctors need money. We don't have that, so don't dream. I smiled politely, went back upstairs, and packed my bag with silent joy and quiet determination. Mrs. Clark drove me to the city, helped me move in, and hugged me like a mother at the gate. She said, "Now go change the world, Noah. Show them what strength really looks like." I held her words in my chest like a shield because I knew the road ahead would be hard. But I was ready to suffer, ready to fight, ready to turn my scars into something good. In college, I worked long hours, took extra classes, and volunteered at clinics on weekends. I met people from everywhere, some rich, some poor, and all with different stories to share. I listened carefully, took notes on life, not just science, and grew as a student and a person. I never forgot the attic, never forgot the silence, the pain, the cold nights without love. My cousins dropped out one by one, got into trouble, and blamed everyone for their mistakes. I never laughed at them, never felt better. I just stayed quiet and focused on my own path. At 22, I graduated early with honors, standing proud in front of strangers who clapped. My uncle didn't come, but Mrs. Clark did, and her tears said more than any words ever could. That day, I walked across the stage, my hands shaking, but my heart full. Finally, feeling seen, they called my name, gave me a medal, and I thought of my parents, hoping they were proud. The boy in the attic was now a doctor, not because of luck, but because he never gave up. And this was only the beginning, the start of something greater, something made of light. My first days in the hospital were hard, full of fear and questions I kept to myself. The other students were confident and bold. They spoke fast and moved without hesitation. I stayed quiet and watched them closely, learning every movement, every small routine. I wrote everything down in my notebook, even how the nurses smiled to calm pain. The doctors taught us how to listen, how to ask the right things at the right time. They showed us how hands should move, soft but sure, strong but never cold. I practiced on plastic arms for hours, repeating steps until I got them just right. I talked to the mirror every night, pretending I was speaking to real patients. One day, a patient called my name. His voice was weak, but his eyes were kind. He asked if I wanted to sit, then shared a story about his life and his family. He said he had no visitors left, no one who came to hold his hand anymore. So I stayed longer that evening just to talk and listen and let him feel heard. The nurses saw me do that often, and one day one of them smiled and said thanks. I didn't know why that moved me, but it did. It reminded me of my old life, the days when just one smile mattered, when one word could make the dark feel soft. I realized being a doctor was not just healing. It was being human in every moment. I started leading student rounds early, helping organize notes and explain conditions. Some of the students asked me how someone like me got this good so fast. I never said much, just smiled and said I love to learn and I love to help. But the truth was deeper than words. It came from years of pain and silent strength. After a year, I was given a small honor for my time with patience and attention to care. It wasn't big, but it meant something because it came from the people I served. It said I made them feel safe, made them feel seen like they were more than pain. That night, I cried in my room alone, holding the paper like it was gold in my hands. Outside, life kept moving fast. Parties, events, careers being built on loud ambition. But I stayed focused and steady, moving slowly but never stopping for anything. I spent nights in the emergency room, learning how to act when seconds mattered. I watched Raoul Payne every day, and it shaped me more than any book ever could. Sometimes I walked home late at night through quiet streets with my head full of thoughts. I remember my cousins back then, how they laughed at me, how they said I was weak. Now, they messaged me sometimes, asking for help, for advice, for anything I could give. I helped when I could, but I never forgot how far I had come from that small attic. Years passed, and I finished med school, top of my class, chosen for a big hospital. People now call me Dr. Noah, and some ask to work beside me and learn. I never let that change my heart. I still cleaned my space, still said thank you to all, because I knew pride was dangerous and kindness was what truly made me strong. My first real surgery was a moment I'll never forget. Hands shaking, but eyes clear. I remember my mother that day, how she once cleaned floors just to feed me. I wish she could see me now, holding tools, saving lives, doing what she dreamed. She always said I would be great, and now I was proving her right with every breath. At a health event in the city, I gave a talk about medicine, and my story was shared. People came after to thank me, to tell me I gave them hope in a dark world. A woman cried and said her son gave up, but now he wants to try again in school. I felt something deep inside then, like my pain had finally turned into a gift. I started working in small towns too, places where no one wanted to go before. I opened clinics, trained young students, gave free care to those with no help. The children there reminded me, small, silent, and full of dreams and fear. I told them all, don't stop. One day this pain will be your strongest power. One evening, as I locked the clinic, a boy ran to me and gave me a crumpled note. It spoke, "Thank you, doctor, for saving my sister. I want to be like you someday." I kept that note in my coat pocket next to my mother's picture and my first badge, because in that moment I knew I had become more than a doctor. I had become hope. The hospital was growing fast. New staff arrived. New buildings were built every year. I became a senior doctor at last, leading a team of kind and careful young minds. We worked long shifts together each week, helping patients with hearts full of pain. They came from all over the country, hoping we could bring back health and peace. Many of them were poor and tired. Some had no homes, and some had no family. I always sat beside each one, asked their story, and gave them time to speak. Some had no shoes on their feet, no food in their bags, no money for a ride. But I treated them with respect and care, like kings and queens, with a warm smile. One winter, we had a long power cut, and the whole building felt cold and slow. The machines stopped for hours, but the team stayed calm, holding hands with hope. We used flashlights to move around, used simple tools to clean wounds and cuts. That night, a woman gave birth in silence while nurses held lamps above her head. She named the child after me, said I saved her life, said she felt like I was family. I cried after she left the ward because I remembered the time I felt just like her. No one holding my hand in pain, no name remembered, no blanket to feel warm. Now I was the one who gave light, the one who stayed when others walked away. I began traveling to other cities, giving talks to students, training rural doctors. They listened closely to every word. They knew I spoke from truth, not pride. One boy stood up and said aloud, "I want to be like you. I want to help the poor." That one sentence made me smile because I once whispered it to myself in bed. I met doctors from many places. Some had titles, some had fame, but little heart. They talked about money and power, about fame and respect, about being known. But I talked about simple things like listening, like staying late, like holding hands. Some laughed at my words at first, but others followed and started doing the same. One morning I was called upstairs to the director's office with flowers on his desk. He said I was chosen for an award, one given for kindness and silent impact. He said, patients wrote letters about me, long letters, full of love and grateful tears. I didn't know what to say at first, but I thanked him with both hands on my heart. The award didn't change my work. I still woke early and stayed long after the shift. I still cleaned my tools myself, still folded the bed sheets, still checked every chart. I didn't want to be the best in name. I wanted to be the one who truly healed, the one who saw pain before words, who stayed when the world turned away. I saved money little by little, never for cars, never for gold, only for something true. I bought a small building downtown, turned it into a free clinic for poor children. We offered food, clean water, simple care, and quiet rooms full of calm colors. Volunteers joined me each week, and we made a place of warmth and love. The news wrote stories about the clinic, said it was rare to see such heart today. They took photos of the children smiling, holding toys, and hugging each other. One photo showed me holding a child, and it went viral in just one night. People from other countries sent letters thanking me for making the world better. But behind all that light and praise, I still walked home in silence every night. I still kept a photo of my mother in one of the old rooms where I grew up. I still heard the words of my cousins, their laughter when I had nothing to wear. But now I use that pain as fire, as power to lift others who feel like I once did. I met a woman at the hospital. Her name was Elise, and she was gentle and kind. She worked as a nurse on night shifts, quiet and soft, but strong in every way. We talked over coffee one evening and shared stories of our long and hard past. She didn't care about awards or titles. She cared about people, just like I did. Weeks turned into months with her, and her presence became my favorite piece. We laughed over simple things, shared books, and cooked cheap meals with joy. She visited my clinic one Sunday and spent all day playing with the small kids. That night I knew she was the one, not because of beauty, but because of soul. I proposed in the garden behind the clinic with flowers grown by the children. She cried before she said yes, and hugged me with both hands over her heart. We married quietly in spring. Just close friends and some nurses by our side. No gold, no loud music, just smiles, hugs, and the warm sun above our heads. Years passed, and I kept working, and so did Elise with calm and steady hearts. We adopted 2 orphans from the city, 2 little girls with big eyes and soft hands. I saw myself in their quiet eyes and promised to be the father I never had. We gave them books, stories, and dreams, and they gave us love without end. Now when I walk through the clinic, I see colors. I hear laughter. I feel peace. I see patients reading while waiting, children drawing with crayons and chalk. I see doctors who learn to be kind, not just smart, not just skilled, but human. I see my old story in their new lives, and I smile because pain made me better. At night, Elise holds my hand and we talk about the day, about small and big things. She says she's proud of me often, but I say I'm proud of the journey we took from the cold attic to this warm home, from tears to laughter, from fear to faith. I didn't just become a doctor. I became a man shaped by love and quiet strength. The sun rose gently over the hills, and I stood at my window, holding my morning tea. Elise was reading a book nearby, while our girls played quietly on the floor. The house was warm and quiet, filled with laughter and peace I never knew before. I looked around the room and smiled, thinking how far we had come for nothing. I still walked to the clinic each day, wearing the same old coat from long ago. The streets felt familiar and kind, with people who waved and smiled as I passed. Children called my name with joy, and their mothers thanked me with grateful eyes. I never saw myself as a hero, but I knew I had made a real difference here. Some patients brought small gifts like apples or flowers wrapped in brown paper. Others came just to say hello or share good news about their lives or jobs. One boy brought his exam results. He hugged me and said I helped him believe. I hung his paper on the wall right next to my mother's faded photograph. At night, I often sat with Elise, telling her stories from the clinic and beyond. We laughed at the funny ones and sometimes cried over the ones that hurt. She always listened with care, her hands warm around mine, her eyes kind. She said healing wasn't only medicine. It was listening and loving and staying. I remember the old days often when I was hungry and cold and felt forgotten. The days when my cousins mocked me and I cried myself to sleep in silence. Now, they send me messages online telling me how proud they are of me. They say they knew I would succeed, but I remember how they once looked away. I forgave them long ago, not for their sake, but to free my heart from anger. Carrying pain too long is heavy, and forgiveness made my chest breathe again. I didn't need revenge or praise. I just wanted to build something good and lasting, something my mother would have been proud of, something that helps others heal. I started mentoring new doctors, young and unsure, just like I once was. I taught them to speak softly, to look people in the eyes, to ask before touching. I reminded them that kindness matters, even when you're tired or running late. And when patients leave smiling, that is the real reward. More than anything else, we opened a small school nearby to teach poor children science and dreams. Elise helped organize books and lessons, and our girls read to the younger ones. Every Friday, we held a story circle where I told them my own childhood tale. They listened with wide eyes, then asked how I became a doctor from all that. I told them that pain is not the end. It's just the beginning of a stronger road. That even when no one believes in you, you can still believe in yourself deeply. That kindness is a form of strength, and working hard every day does matter, and that no one can take your future if you never let go of your own light. Some nights, I still dream of my mother calling my name from far away. She smiles without speaking and touches my face with her gentle hand. I wake up with tears in my eyes, but a soft peace in my heart each time. I whisper to the dark, "I made it, Mama," and hope she hears me somehow.